We are happy to race the next days, and we are looking forward to the World Championship and give it all.
Everyone is super friendly. We can race in great conditions.
Oman Sail for bringing this event to Oman.
Good luck for everyone for this week.
Welcome to Mussanah, Oman for the 2021 49er FX and Nacra17 World Championship. I'm your host, Ben Remacher, along with Chris Musler, and we're ready for day 2 action here at the 49er qualifying. We've had 1 day of racing so far, and this is the 2nd day of action, and the fleet is split. We're about to start our 4th race of the series, and let's go to the water, and we'll introduce who's sailing today. Chris, you've been here for a couple days, and what do you think the sailors are going to be facing out there today?
Well, we've been talking about it. It's like the Groundhog Day movie with Bill Murray. Every day there's not a cloud in the sky, ever. And the sea breeze usually comes in the morning, a little bit left of, or a little north of east, and then it just clocks slowly to the right. People talk a lot about like Long Beach in Southern California, how these sea breezes are pretty consistent. The only thing that the sailors really were focused on yesterday is that the fact that it's way shiftier than they thought it would be, and way patchier than they thought it would be. So awesome. So we're about to start, and let's go to the water and we can talk about the rest of the race as it develops.
So just like you predicted, we've got a medium sea breeze here. You can see the teams already starting to line up. We've got a total of 36 teams in the championship. So 18 of them are in this fleet, and there's a mirrored fleet in the other course that we aren't going to see today. And we can see front of screen is Netherlands 49. That's Bart Lambrew. He fresh off his Olympic appearance, first Olympic appearance, and he's looking like he wants to win the pin.
Yeah, we don't have the time here, but like we talked about, as the day goes on, this is the second half of the day, basically. The FXs and Nacras are off first. There are a lot of boats stacked up towards the boat, and that's the group that's predicting it to go right.
Looks like they're sheeting in to accelerate here, so you can see the bows bear off. We got a few teams starting on port, and you know, that's the gun. We couldn't tell exactly if anyone was over, but we got, I think that's Meggendorfer Spranger, Germany 22, in the middle of the fleet, having a good start. And our pin end guys, Bart here, along with Canada on his hip, they were a little bit slower to accelerate across the line, so I wonder if there were some OCSs, but we'll find out that shortly.
We do see there was kind of the majority of the boats, it were kind of spread out, but a nice tight pack up at the boat. And what we learned yesterday and the last couple days is there's a split group that usually goes for the sides, and then some people that just try to play their card in the middle. And because it's such an open course, any one of those can work on any given beat. So it's a little bit of a roll of the die.
Yeah, what I've been hearing is that the sea breeze is consistent on a daily basis, but doesn't have a lot of power behind it. So any little bit of resistance, being a pack of boats, for example, can stop the breeze more than you might expect. So the teams get a bit uneasy about how much power they have. We're on board now with Canada 226, Ryan Wood and Andrew Wood. You can see they're falling down into the Dutch who won the pin, and they're going to have to tack out of that hole. There they go for their tack. So they're getting out of there. That leaves Bart Lambrew here with a clear lane to the left. He obviously wanted the pin, and he's got the pin, so no excuses on this one.
We do know that in any of these really good fleets that the longer you can stay on starboard generally after the start until you can make your first call is really helpful. But right now, looking at the tracker, the fleet is pretty even from port tack to starboard tack. And that's it. I think people are looking, there we go, Netherlands just tacked. They didn't go that far to the left. So that just tells me that with a good portion of the fleet that started to the right, Now there's more and more boats on port tack, that there might be a little bit more breeze coming down middle right side of the course.
Yeah, they're only halfway to the ley line, for example, so they didn't go all the way. They obviously just wanted to be the left of the bunch, and now they've tacked back, and they can see all the way across the fleet. We can see on the far side, India 613, Kendapar and Thakar, who had a good Asian championship and a good day yesterday. They're the ones leading to the right side of the fleet, and as you mentioned in your preview, the wind is likely to bend right here anyways, so over the course of the day. What it does in this beat, we're not sure. So India is looking punched. They probably started on port and got out right hard.
Yeah, Ben, tell me a little bit about the Indian team. They're putting an awful lot of effort into their team recently. There are a lot of new sailors, but tell me about this team.
Okay, we're back on board with the Canadians, but the Indian team, KC and Ghana, they're pretty experienced. They sailed Santander 2014, for example.
Okay, that was a while ago.
So they're in and out of the international scene. I think this is only their third or fourth Worlds, but they've been around a bit. And India is structured around their Army team and their Navy team, so they have two competing training groups, pushing hard all the time.
Yeah, when you talk about the Army and the Navy team, they're literally sponsored by those arms of the military.
That's right. Yeah. So and they each have lots of boats and lots of sailors, and yeah, we see quite a few of them here. I think India might be the nation with the most boats participating, with 3 49ers and an FX team here present.
Yeah, I think they were one of the earliest teams here too. At the end of October, maybe October 30th or something like that.
Just looking at these great shots over top of the Canadian team here, we got on board with them, looking at aerial shots, and you can see the conditions are pretty powered up. They're certainly depowering as they go upwind, taking a step back on the side of their wing. This brother pair is second year in the 49er, coming out of 29er, and just looking over his shoulder there, Ryan, the helm, trying to figure out when to go back, keeping an eye on where the windward mark is. Also, they'll be wanting to make sure they don't spend any more time in any dirty wind here. So they're now the far left boat, or heading to be the far left boat, and just deciding how far to go, and if they can get back in phase or in the main bunch, or if they just want to take a ride to the left and see how it goes. You can see the bunch went up the middle, so they didn't. I would have expected the Indians to go all the way to the ley line, but they obviously decided it wasn't needed, or maybe they got a header.
But you can tell on the tracker that the middle of the course is getting up. The middle group is getting up the course at least as good as the right group, if not better. It's showing India in the lead on the tracker right now, and then you're seeing on the far right that young Australian team that had such a blinder yesterday. They're still
Otto
in the
Henry.
top. Yeah.
Is he far right now? He's gone to the ley line?
Yep, he's far right. He was in second on the tracker, and now he's dropped down to sixth, and that keeps dropping. So then, what that tells me is that this is very much a pressure game and not a shift game. Right up the middle of the course, there's probably just a good bit of pressure up the course. There are shifts. India tacked again. Now it's at the third tack of the beat so far, and they're about halfway up the beat. So maybe it is shift and pressure, but it's paying off for the middle right group.
You can see where the first place Germany 911 right now, where they tacked. It looked on the tracker like they were a little bit headed. They've put in a tack to get onto the lifted tack and go back right. So it seems like the teams are, playing the pressure, playing the shifts. I know it's very hard for the teams to read the wind here, as in the water. It's very bright. The water's light. So they aren't able to see the dark patches like they are in some other venues so much. So there's a bit of frustration from some of the teams that maybe they aren't able to use all their senses like they think they can in other places. But the same sorts of things of sailing fast and sailing on the lifted tack are obviously what they're chasing right now.
Yeah, and here's that German team, but they did have to take a couple transoms coming up.
This is a different one. This is Germany 22 that we saw start near the pin, Meggendorfer Spranger.
Okay, so they're a little further down, and they're in like 15th right now. Yeah, but that middle left group then is still really strong.
Germany 911 in the lead is Stingel and Schiel.
Yep. How many in this particular fleet, in the blue fleet, how many of these people were at the Olympic Games?
Just going through it, I think none.
None. So whoever is who are competing in Tokyo or in the other fleet.
Dixon and Waddy Love from Ireland moving into second place, right in front of our screen. They went to the games. They had a pretty good games actually. Unfortunate incident where they got disqualified from a couple races from having their harnesses a little heavy, but sailed really well, and they're sailing well now. So there they are, Ireland 99, making a couple crosses. Crosses at this stage of the race are critical. If you can get ahead of a few boats here, and especially if you're going to the right, that'll set you up well for a windward mark rounding that you're happy with.
Yeah, is any of this top 5 group coming out of the right? I don't think so. This is middle left is really strong. So there's a lot going on here. I talked to a couple of the sailors this morning, and they said, you know, once you're fully trapping, you're really into minimizing tack mode unless it's really obvious. In the lighter air, they can throw in a couple more tacks and not lose as much.
Yeah. I also see a little farther in the back is Cipicek and Kolodinski from Poland. They went to the games. Poland 42. They're about halfway up this race, but it's that right team of Germany 911, Stingel and Schiel that are leading on the water. Obviously, center screen. This is the front group of the race. That is Poland 164 in the middle, in the middle of the Irish, and then that's the Aussie in the background there in the front row.
Yep.
So
German 111, that group, they crossed the entire middle half of the course to get over there from the left side of the course.
Yeah, but you see the Aussies, the one that you mentioned who went far right, they're in third. That's them behind the Polish flag.
Okay.
So it's all kind of coming together. We got people from the left. We got the left actually less so. We got people from the right and people from the middle. And now it looks like the Germans have got one more tack to do, so that's what they're going to put in. That'll mean the Irish and the Polish here also have a tack to do. These are the moments that make the fine details and how you round. I'm sure the Irish are just hoping they can get the Polish to tack first so they get a clean lane. They'll probably sail a high mode here to change the timings of when teams they need to do their tacks. But it won't be long now. There the Polish go for the tack. We'll see the Irish flip over as well. And then they'll both be hoping to cross. That's an Omani team. Which one? That is
Al-Hassani and Mashri.
Yeah, so they had a good day one as well.
Yeah.
And they're sailing well here. Let's see if the Irish can get across or if they're going to have to duck. It looks like the Polish got across.
Well, it's a lot easier for the boats in the front. If they know they have 2 more tacks left, they can decide whether or not to do it on a shift or not.
So the Omanis just tacked underneath. So now the Irish are coming in. They've got the chance to pick the ley line perfectly, and they'll be hoping to be ahead of everyone else and get a clean lane out of this mark. Here we come up with the Germans. Stingel and Steele. Well sailed first beat. I think they were definitely pressing the line, if I recall, but we can find out about that later. In for the hoist, nice couple waves there, and the Irish had to go behind. Right. So Polish get through into second.
Yeah, the second Polish team.
Stanuel and Stork, and then we got the Aussies here.
Yeah, we got to give Henry and Davey a lot of credit. The one thing we do know about those two is that they're really fast, and that's something that's been a focus of theirs. You know, they're young, they're focusing on a lot of things, but the one thing we do know is that they're super quick.
Yeah, this is their first World Championship, and they've been kind of marooned out of Australia for a while. So is that the Omanis jibe setting? A little local knowledge there, maybe?
Yeah.
But we'll see. Also, the Danes going for a jibe set, get their spinnaker stuck in the drink. Poland 42, Kolodzinski and Prisbitek. Nice straight set.
And this just shows
Italy, and
shows you where the Canadians ended up.
Megendorf for Spranger. Canadians salvaged a pretty decent beat there, considering they were stuck out left and didn't get a lane. But nice extension there from the Canadians as they get going. Here's our leader. So they jibe pretty early too. So people are pretty keen on that right side facing upwind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder what that is. I mean, that for downwind, pressure seems to win over most things because that changes your angles pretty dramatically with the ASIM kites. It's all apparent wind sailing.
Yeah, I mean, you could dig into a shift too. So maybe they just think it's fresher on the right, and obviously people came from the right. That's usually a pretty good indicator. We got the Canadians here fending off a boat above them. Possibly going to the wrong side of the course. So
I remember at the last Worlds, we had a lot of talks with the coaches about the development and the advancements in the class, and they did say that just small changes make the boats go faster and faster, but also just the level is getting faster each year. Does that change some of their techniques downwind? Are they sailing different types of angles, or do they have more modes downwind now because the level is getting higher?
We put in a new spinnaker for this quad, for the last, since Rio 2016, and it provided a few more angles they could sail. But mostly I would say like just the level of sailing is incredibly high now. Like this is essentially a rookie team, maybe their second year on circuit. You can see they're locked in, trapping low, mid-fleet, looking, pretty comfortable there. And I think a lot of that has to do with they've been able to see these races on TV. There's no secrets. They can look at Burling and Tuke on a downwind like this.
And they're modeling that.
They're modeling that. They're able to pick up the settings. So the boats are well known now, and because of all the broadcasts, the information's relatively freely available, and the coaches know a lot too. There's dozens of coaches with years of experience, so there's
a
no
lot
secrets
of data
anymore, or not many.
Yeah. So most of the fleet is on port jibe. No secrets there. And the Germans really just have a really clean lane. We know that the breeze is a little bit up and down, but there's nothing stopping this team from just at least holding or extending right now. Beautiful jibe, perfect jibe.
Yeah, these are pretty, relative, maybe the easiest conditions you get in a 49er.
Yeah.
A little bit lighter, I guess, would be a tiny bit easier, but this is all well within their wheelhouse. They'll have been practicing these types of maneuvers, and we shouldn't expect too much drama from them. They'll be focused on things like where the pressure is and where the ley lines are. They won't want to overstand, and they won't want to do too many extra jibes. If I were guessing, I'd say they'll set up to go right on the next upwind, so they're probably looking to go most of the way across on port, in with a little bit to do, one more jibe through the gate at the right ley line, and then out going right upwind, out on port. That sets them up to go the way they want, get clear of most of the spinnakers, and set themselves up for an easy second lap.
It's actually not it's a really close cross here with Germany and Poland. Tell me a little bit about this Polish team, because I think the other Polish team was at the games.
Yeah, Stanio and Stork, they just won the Europeans.
This Polish team.
No, I think it was the other one. There's three here. No, it was this team. Stanio and Stork just won the Europeans.
Yeah. But they were not the representative at the Olympics in Tokyo.
Poland 42, who's in this race, was the representative at the games, and they did come to the Europeans, but it was the young team here of Stanio and Stork who won their first championship. First time Poland has won a European championship, and it was the young team.
And that's why I want to talk about these guys. I want to know a little bit more about them, because we talk a lot about Pavel, particularly the very vocal and involved crew from the other team that's been to the Olympics before.
Yeah, we'll get into the Polish crews here. They're a dynamic group. They work together. Now we're on board with the Korean teams of Kim and Bae. This is the first time they've been at the they've been at the World Championship with us, and they had a really good day yesterday. They were sitting in 15th overnight. The Korean squad is 10 boats strong, actually, so they don't leave Korea very often. You can see the different trapezing technique here than we saw with the Canadians, so I don't know if they've got less wind or maybe they're just trimming everything differently. Maybe the Canadians were under pressure and trapping so hard because of that. But you can see how much less aft they are. Mm-hmm. They're not locked together. They're obviously feeling something different than we saw with the Canadians.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good observation. But like you said about this group, I mean, maybe they've been training in a bubble. This is their first World Championship. I'd really love to know what brought them out of Korea, what movements in their athletic programs.
Round the leeward marks. So Stanio and Stork, I think, have taken the leading move there. Mm-hmm. They've gone back around, and I guess we'll catch up with that in a moment here. But
and the Irish have really moved up as well, just ahead of the Australians. A lot of young teams here.
But Germany 911 wasn't able to get across the Polish, and the Polish then kind of stole the go right mark, which I think would be favored. So that Germany 911 got passed on that downwind.
Yeah.
And
here I was saying that it'll be pretty easy for them to stay or extend.
Well, nothing's easy, right? But so the Korean team here, for example, they're down in 16th place. They're soaking low here, actually, to try and get down on the ley line, which...
Do you know what it looked like that happened is that the Polish team got onto port a little bit after everyone else, and that shift probably just stayed.
Yeah.
So it was just really hard for the German team lost a lot coming back.
You can see how much lighter it is down here than what we observed with the Canadians on board a little while back. So obviously at the bottom of the course here, it's a little bit lighter. There's obviously some traffic.
Yeah. And we saw that with Korea, like you were pointing out. As they were getting towards the bottom of the track, they were further forward on the rack, a little higher up on the traps.
So that was France 44 going around with the second place jerseys on today. Fisher and Delpech. Mm-hmm. There's Bart Lambrew, who won the pin. So, obviously the left wasn't favored on that beat. We can see most of the team slipping over onto port right away.
Yeah, the leaders kind of came out of the middle early in that race.
Ireland 11, Guilfoyle and Duncan. They're is that last there? That's 17th. There's one more boat behind. So that's the back of the fleet. It's all pretty close still. Everyone was round in a minute.
If you trust the tracker, it just looked like the facing upwind, the left side mark was a little bit favored. But like you were saying, let's take a look at this though. I mean, honestly, right now everything's really even. And Breeze
we've got 3 boats on the front row here. We can see 2 of them in picture easily, Ireland, and then in the middle of the screen is Germany 911. The Polish are right to the far side, but the tracker shows them all pretty equal right now. You can see the Polish just in the background. You can see them all now in the tracker. So that's the front row. You know, who's to say which side's going to be favored? It's more stable here than shifty, right? Like, you know, there can be little shifts back and forth, and the pressure can be up and down, but it's not like it's go right all the time.
Yeah,
so,
nothing too dramatic.
You can see the Irish now in the tracker look a little lifted. The Polish looked a little headed, and they tacked, and now the Germans are just bending down. They've already done one tack this speed. Are they going to go underneath? Yeah, they are. So they're going to go underneath. They're going to play the shift.
Yep.
And the
well,
Polish...
boat handling's not an issue with this group, most of them, so...
No, and the Polish look like they're benefiting from that shift. So they went right, got a header, tack, look like they're going to try and get across the fleet here.
Yeah.
On board with Meggendorfer Spranger. That was the team that that's the other German team.
Yeah, and they've actually been climbing the rest of the race since that downwind leg. There doesn't seem to be in a lot of these squads now, there's not a big gap between some of the top 2 teams in the squads. Yeah,
the level's incredibly high, all the way to 60th or 70th in the world. You know, like there's differences, but the squad members, you know, all push the guys at the front, and they're in the same game. You know, it used to be that there were kind of different games going on, but now, you know, once you've had a couple years on the boat to get your boat handling down, the rig's well understood, the sails are well understood, the techniques are well understood. So yeah, it seems to me that this is happening in a couple countries all at the same time after the Tokyo Games, and I wonder why that is. Do you think that has something to do with training partners having to stick around longer because of the extra year, and then carrying on, you know, into the next games? What jumped to maybe? I mean, yeah, we see. I think Poland 42. You know, Powell and Lucas. Lucas is going to probably continue on, but Powell's going to retire here. But he's still here. Whereas, you know, if it had been a year ago, he would have already retired. If the Olympics had been a year ago, he already would have retired. But you know, none of these German teams was the Games teams. So for example, they're all squad members. They're all getting geared up for Paris already, right? So all 3 of the German teams in this race are trying to get to Paris. Like yeah, at the last Worlds, our biggest conversations were talking about not just qualifying your country for the Olympics, but qualifying for the Olympics outside of your squad. Yeah. And that's already started here. We're already a year into the quad. What did we say? Less than 3 years. Less than 3 years to Paris. Yeah. These guys are, you know, it's full campaign mode already, or it's just the start of it, really. But from now till Paris, they will be going full throttle, and, you know, new teams will be trying to impose themselves. We see Otto Henry and Davy here on the far right. You know, they've obviously got a good shift and made some passes. We can see Germany 911. They passed the Irish, who've sunk all the way back to 8th. So we've seen the right side of this course do well, and it looks to me like it's light. Like, we're not looking at live pictures, but look how slow those boats look on the tracker. So I'd say the whole fleet's sailed into a bit of a lull. It's gone a bit right, maybe, or maybe the right had wind for longer. No, it's not so slow. They're still double trapping and everything. So yeah. But yeah, it's really close for the top 3 right now. But what we noticed on the downwind leg, sometimes those changes could be a little bit more dramatic. But certainly in the top 3, they are head-to-head right now, but they're spread, you know, at least with Germany, they're spread pretty far across the course, almost across the whole course. Yeah, Germans left to center, and Poland and Australia are almost on the starboard ley line. They're both on port right now, and they have to do 2 more tacks at least. How accurate? These trackers are really accurate, right? So this distance, well, it's distance to the mark, not distance between boats, right? So when we look at 33 meters, that's the difference between, not necessarily the distance between first and second place. That should be windward distance to the mark. So you can see the ladder. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you can. There's something funky going on. Looks like with the wind, eh? Like now Germany's looking gold, and they look like they've got a left shift. Yep. And let's see if the Polish hold it. We saw them looking good on that last live shot, right? We were looking across and thinking, oh, they look powered up, and now it's showing on the tracker. Yep. So Ireland's gone back out left. They've taken a few hits on the virtual tracker, but if the left comes in here, they're going to pass all the boats on the right and still be up in the top 5. Correct. They're going to go for their tack. Let's see which side comes in here on the top of this beat. We see India, 780. That's the different Indian team than we were looking at earlier. Yeah, it's that group right down there with Korea, Netherlands, Italy in the middle of the pack. That's where all the changes are happening right now. Yeah, I think a lot of the teams, like I was, were banking on the right, and it doesn't seem like that's worked out this beat. So
Nope.
got to keep your head out and find your path.
Yeah, it might be too early in the day still, or just not happening today.
Yeah. There's Team Canada. On board Team Canada, they are 15th on the tracker, heading left, not actually too far behind the Irish, going for their tack now. And that's Megendorfer Spranger, Germany 22.
I wonder what happened to the Almanis. It must have been, I don't know if it was, they had a good downwind leg, I thought.
They went for that jibe set, and we haven't seen them since. So
Yeah.
I don't actually see them on the tracker anymore.
It might have just got given too much up going underneath the rest of the pack.
Yeah, the jibe set on the first beat is a tough proposition. You're guaranteed to take a lot of bad air.
Initially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was a representative in Tokyo from Germany?
It was Eric Howell and Thomas Posel.
Oh, that's right.
With the second straight bronze medals by a tie.
I know. And those guys had a bronze medal or silver medal for the FX as well.
Germany did,
in
yeah.
Tokyo, yep.
Yeah.
But where are those guys now?
I think Eric's finishing med school. So, busy guy.
Yeah.
And
maybe it was a use it or lose it proposition for finishing up school.
He's been trying, so that's where Tokyo being delayed a year really cost people, is with their other plans from sailing, like full-time sailors. Another year sailing, it's fine. But when you're trying to graduate or trying to get married, trying to start a family, like all that stuff had to get put on hold for a whole year, and it had varying impacts across the fleet.
The breeze is definitely lightening up here, even though everyone's both on trapeze. You can see in the turns things aren't happening quite as quickly. But at the top of the fleet, I mean, these top three, it's not stopping them from tacking on little shifts right now. I mean, they're not holding back on trying to get their gains right now.
There's plenty of power to get it re-accelerated fairly quickly. This is, they all needed 2 more tacks to get around this mark, and I guess Poland and Australia have chosen roughly the same spot. Maybe there was a tiny wind shift, or maybe it's just a ley line and they want to set up for the windward mark grounding. And Germany 911, they played the left side of the beat, but ultimately the right side won out. So that move that we saw the Polish make to take that go right mark ultimately paid off for them, but not by much. It's going to be a tight downwind, and the Australians came from the right as well.
Yeah, and those kids are pushing. I call them kids because they're quite young, pushing really hard. But it's great to see. Same thing with the Poles.
Yeah, really, Otto Henry and Miles Davey are essentially just teenagers still, or are they 20? And they've, this is their first Worlds. They're sitting third overnight, and now they're second in this race, so they're obviously not slowing down.
The top two, those are the youngest pairs in the fleet.
Staniel and Stork?
Yeah.
So, they just won the Worlds, and they were at the Junior Worlds this year, so they're young.
Okay, see, there you go.
Yeah, and
that's great to see. Do you think that with the maturing of the 29er fleet around the world, that we may see younger players in the 49ers, get to the top of the 49er fleet quicker because they have such transferable skills, into a more mature 29er fleet, an older.
It was only a couple years ago where we were saying, you got to be a 10-year veteran to do well in the 49er fleet.
Right.
Jonas Warr, Dylan Fletcher, Pete Burling, Stuart Bithell. It was an old man's game, and all of a sudden now we're talking about the next generation. There's always talent out there. We got a young guy, Matthias from Norway, who's just won a couple of Youth Worlds titles and a 29er Worlds, and now this is his first
you compared
Worlds.
him to Outeridge because he has the same trajectory.
Quote unquote, the next Outeridge, right? But that's a big label to put on someone who's just in their first year.
Nathan Outeridge, who had a whole era named after him because of the number of world championships. Yeah. He and what was his crew's name?
Ian Jensen for a while.
Jensen.
Ben,
but what's his nickname? Jensen's nickname?
Goobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's got to be something in that. The 29er fleet's been around long enough that now you have generations going through it. And, I don't care, I've talked to the Australians, and the Australian skipper is a 420 champion, the Australian crew is a 29er champion. The Australian skipper said, it's the same. It can't be exactly the same if you sail the 29er forever and then jump into this. It's got to be a little bit better of a transition. That's my opinion.
Well,
or my thought.
Yeah, it could. I don't know if we have enough data to know for sure. I noticed that teams are coming out of quite a few boats, and I would say the trend is more for people to sail more boats than they used to. So they'll hop into
different classes,
following the tradition of Outeridge and Burling and others to jump in other classes and get sort of cross training but still sailing.
Yep.
So even Outridge did 2 years in 29er, and then 2 years in 420, and then 2 years in 29er, then 2 years in 470, and then came to a 49er.
Yeah,
So
good point.
And Pete and Blair, they did their ACATs, they did their moth sailing, and Dylan's done his moth sailing. So I would say that's more the trend, and it kind of matters as long as you're mad keen on sailing and sailing a high quality competitive fleet. Probably the skills are transferring.
Right, and it may be a different group of boats, but still diverse group of boats, meaning like less 470, more moth.
Yeah, maybe.
More other Nacra15.
Yeah.
So, cool. Well, we had everyone start off spending a lot of time on starboard. Now the fleet is just starting to peel off onto port, but there's a middle pack that's a little bit late to flop. But looking at the tracker, things are actually pretty steady now. Is this the normal thing with 49ers to have the lead group kind of extend pretty quickly once they get the kite up and then things, the escalator idea?
Yeah, I mean, it can be, right? Like the second lap is obviously going to be less competitive than the first lap. This is also a qualifying fleet of only 18 boats compared to what we'll see later in the week, which will be a gold fleet of 25 boats where you get 25 of the best.
Yeah.
So, we're going to see a little bit of natural spread just due to the difference in skill here, more so than we will in the gold fleet. And also, anytime there's a second lap and guys have been in dirty wind for extra time, they're going to fall behind no matter who they are. Yeah. We did see Ireland, we didn't quite finish out the beat with them, but the Irish did move all the way back up to 4th. So in the end, that left side did pay off, and that's why I think the team's straight set.
Yep.
They went back to where that pressure came from.
In that last half of that beat.
Last half of that beat, the left came back in, and then the team straight set into it. And now, there's a couple teams that went to the far side, to our screen right on the downwind, and they haven't done anything too special. I think Germany 22 maybe lost a boat or two.
They're totally ripping right now. Really powered up downwind. Does that look powered up to you?
It looks great, right? Like these are solid middle of the road conditions.
What do you think? It's around 10
Yeah, 10 knots.
10 knots or so.
Yeah. So real easy sailing. It's warm here, as you'd imagine. Maybe not as warm as I imagined. It's actually been beautiful here in Oman. But the sailors are pretty happy right now. They're in their lightest gear that they wear. They're fully powered up, able to race. So it's pretty quality conditions.
In the last Olympics, who was... Ireland had a team at the last Olympics in 49?
Yeah, the team that's in this fleet, or well, actually both teams are in this fleet. So
but which one was it? That's what I'm asking.
It was 99, Dixon and Wadilove.
Okay.
So they're in 4th place in this race right now, not in screen.
At the last Worlds, we weren't really talking about Ireland.
Ireland was the last to qualify from Europe, so they won the European qualifier in Lanzarote. A bit to some people's
leading
surprise.
up to Tokyo.
That's what did I say? No, but the qualifier was in Lanzarote.
Right, okay, go.
Yeah, so they won that qualifier. Diego Button and Iago Mara won the regatta by a landslide, actually. Like, they were incredibly fast from Spain.
Yep.
But then the Irish team came second, and that was their trials and their qualifier. And they weren't that pushed. Like, for a pretty important regatta, we had a bunch of other teams trying to qualify, and the Irish just took it from them all. Like, it wasn't even in question, and then they came.
But were they on your radar screen to do something like that before that?
Not really. No, it was that was their warning, like that they'd really come into the top group, and they had a really good Olympics.
Awesome.
So they're on the upswing.
Yeah, and to have another team member.
The second team was probably favored behind Waterloo, so they got passed. The Irish team we thought was going to be the best team got passed by the teammates here that we see.
So here we got the Polish win this race. Really close with Australia. They had a jibe right in front of them, and they actually got a little extension. That game that they played to the right, they got a little extension on Germany and the rest of the fleet. But that top 3 really kind of extended just as a group.
Yeah, and then we see Germany 911.
Yeah, but look at that gap that they were only 2 or 3 boat lengths behind those first 2 boats, and
yeah. These guys were the team that sailed right on the downwind or jibed earlier.
Gotcha. Yeah, these guys came in pretty hot on starboard. The Australians led with the jibe. The Poles jibed in front of them.
And the next team we see is going to be the Irish team that we were just talking about, who really emerged at the end of the last quad and sailing pretty well so far.
Cool. What were their names again?
Sean Dixon and Wadilove there.
Awesome. Cool. And how long have they been in the 49er?
Oh, good 3-4 years at least. Like, they're not old. They've
been doing their time.
Rather, they're a bit young, but they've put in plenty of time. Yeah.
I think that the Polish and Australian team on this downwind leg were really racing each other, and they were pushing really hard. They kind of had that double up effect.
5th there, we got Megendorfer Spranger just across the line, and then in 6th we're going to see Ferese and Christe coming pretty fast here. We got Przybytek and Kolodinsky from Poland, followed by Fischer and Delpech from France.
Yeah, Fischer were really strong going into this.
Yet. And then we see the other Irish team. That's India. Noble and Francis. Prince Noble.
Both Indian teams show them finishing together.
No, that's the other Irish. Same looking flag.
No,
Middle of the screen. Okay.
Yeah, they have it here.
Oh, they're about to finish then, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Oh, so are they flying a French flag? Maybe we've got to check a couple trackers here. No, that's Dutch. Sorry. There's Bart Lambrew, so I'm maybe a little out of order here. Nyborg and Olsen just about to finish in the blue spinnaker. And there's the other Irish team, Guilfoyle and Duncan in the orange-colored Irish spinnaker.
Yep.
There's the Omanis that we saw earlier in the race that Jibe Set probably didn't pay off for them.
Yeah,
Hassani and Al-Mashari.
Yeah, during that second run, the Omanis just got a little hung up, like you said, with that Jibe Set.
Wood Brothers from Canada finishing at the boat, followed by Revel and Depri from France at the pin, and then one final team left. It's just faded, so I can't read their names anymore. Kirian Bay. This is the Koreans. So
yeah,
last place, unfortunately, for the Koreans, but they were pretty close. So
that's interesting to see how that turns out. To be so, just the fact that you can hang and move up the leaderboard on any leg in this fleet means that you've got something.
Oh yeah,
you've got the skills, you've got the tools, the speed, and the crew work to do it.
Nobody's coming here if they can't sail.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing to see.
So that was race 4 of the championship. We've got 9 qualifying races scheduled over 3 days. After that point, we're going to split into gold and silver. And as you can see, the level, it's a bit of a weird championship, only 18 boats, 36 in total, 18 in the qualifying fleet. So, most of these teams are going to appear in the gold fleet, and that's where things will tighten up a little bit. There won't be as many lanes. Teams won't be able to get away with as much stuff. We did see a bunch of teams sort of have bad starts, still find clean air, and that won't happen later in the gold fleet, but tight racing nonetheless. Yeah,
and what I look really closely at, and that's why I really got surprised by that, the Korean team, that it's so easy to make mistakes and drop a lot of boats.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the Koreans on that downwind. They were in 16th place, so they weren't mid-table, but they were ahead of some teams, and obviously that didn't work out. We saw lots of passing in that race. It's clear this race course has opportunities. We saw the lead change. We saw people like the Australians, Otto Henry and Miles Davey, come from, we weren't talking about them, and all of a sudden they're second and almost winning the race. So there's plenty of opportunities on this race course. It's not a one-way track, and we saw the left and the right pay. What a great bit of racing.
Cool. Well, we're going to wrap it up in a sec, but it's just nice to see some new names. And like you point out to me, you're the kind of the class historian. But that, a lot of these teams, like some of the German teams, like the Irish team that just did really well, they've actually been in the fleet for a while. And some of them, it goes back a long time. Maybe they stopped their campaign for a while, came back with someone else. And so it just shows you how long it takes to really climb the leaderboard here, but it's just not easy. We see a lot of place changes no matter what, and, it's a deep fleet.
Well, let's take a little break, and we'll be back this week for more racing.